Well, happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another day of the 11th Annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. It's presented by Northeastern State University. Today, we're ending our first week. We got a whole another week to go. This is one of 60 hour-long sessions. We've got to next Friday, the 14th. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator for the session. Don't forget that all of our sessions are closed captioned. To view the caption, simply click on the closed caption icon and the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Michelle's been with us all week doing the captions and been doing a great job. So take a look at her handiwork. Today's session is the nitty-gritty learning strategies for every subject you could ever think of, right, guys? We have with us Carrie Green, who's the Director of Instructional Design and Technology at Johnson & Wales University, and Jillian Gasaldi. Is that right?
Yeah,
okay, whatever. Who's an instructional designer, also at Johnson & Wales, and they're going to do a great presentation. Let me turn it over to you two.
Great, thank you so much, Bob. Like you said, I'm the Director of Instructional Design and Technology at Johnson & Wales, and our team, we focus on supporting faculty in improving teaching and learning processes and integrating effective instructional technologies in face-to-face and hybrid courses. I've been working in K-12 and higher education for over 15 years now, and I'm excited to be here today with everyone.
And I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. Hi, I'm Jillian Gasaldi. I'm the instructional designer for Carrie's team. Here at Johnson & Wales, I collaborate with faculty in the design and development and the teaching of their courses, specifically on innovative and engaging, meaningful instructional strategies. I've been in education for over 5 years, and I've been in K-12 and higher education sectors, and we're just going to jump right in. Hopefully. There we go. Okay. So we have two learning objectives for today. The first is to explain the importance of incorporating learning strategies into instruction, and the second is to investigate the use of at least 2 active learning strategies that could be implemented for class.
So what is active learning? It has become quite the buzzword in education. Many of us, we've heard of it before, and it means the students being involved in their learning. Students are doing and they're thinking about the things that they are doing. So the question is, why should we take the time to incorporate active learning strategies into our classes?
Okay, so typically we fall into lectures since we're trying to communicate important information, a lot of important information to our students in extremely short periods of time. And we may just kind of fall to lecture because that's the way that we learned in college. But we know that learning isn't a spectator sport, and that students don't learn the most effectively by just sitting and listening to extended lectures. We know that learning is an active process, and students should be able to talk about what they're learning, write about it, relate it to past experiences, and apply it to their daily lives.
The audio is coming in and out.
Yeah, if you move a little closer to the mic.
Sure. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. Did you finish already?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about active learning and students being involved in their learning. So lecturing, it can be an effective tool, an effective way of communicating, since it does allow you to deliver a great deal of information that's not available otherwise. No audio. Okay. Lecturing will not encourage students to move beyond the memorization of the information presented to analyzing and synthesizing ideas so that they can employ them in new ways. By incorporating active learning, we can encourage students to use about material rather than just transcribing content. As the learner adds the material, we can see on the pyramid, they're moving down the pyramid so that they can move to analyzing the content, creating the content, or evaluating content, and just, you know, students be moving. This is correlates to Bloom's taxonomy of learning and how students go into higher order levels of thinking. The more the students get involved, the more they can learn and remember in the long run. So when building active learning strategies into your lessons, we recommend using a chunking strategy. And we can see here, you know, a lot of times, because it's how we learned in college, we may deliver, you know, content in one long lecture. And instead, we can take that content and we can put it out into mini lectures, so into bite-sized pieces of information. And the reason we should be doing this is our brain needs this assistance because working memory is how we manipulate the information, and it only will hold a limited amount of information at one time. So for example, you know, if we look at numbers, so if we look at this set of numbers, and we transfer them, that those are a lot of numbers to remember all of a sudden at once. And, you know, to help our brains, we need to separate it out, think it out. If we think back to, you know, phone numbers, when we used to remember phone numbers, rather than having cell phones, you know, automatically saved for us, we probably use, you know, chunking to be able to remember those phone numbers, you know, the area code and then the rest of the numbers.
Okay, so we know that active learning is important, but what are the benefits? So some of the benefits include increased engagement and concentration. And that's because you wouldn't be just using one method of instructional delivery, for example, in you would be using instruction. Students may tune out after about 10 minutes of the lecture, but by incorporating multiple activities, student concentration would increase. Benefit to using active learning would be that it promotes recall and deeper understanding of the material. By having students engage with the material rather than just listening to it, active learning promotes those deeper levels of understanding. The third benefit, which is already on the screen, is that active learning increases student performance, particularly in science, engineering, and mathematics. We have those studies referenced in our references page a little bit later in the presentation for you to take a look at if you'd like. But if students are concentrating longer, they're developing a deeper understanding of the content. And this would mean the student performance would increase in courses that use active learning versus a traditional lecture style course all the way through. And the final benefit, or fourth benefit to active learning that we wanted to identify today was that it deepens learning towards higher level skills like critical thinking and problem solving. problem-solving abilities, and a positive attitude towards learning in comparison to more traditional-based lecture delivery, help to, again, just increase that concentration, engagement, and therefore content knowledge.
Guys, I think it's not I don't think it's a question of being close to the mic. I think that the mic is, the settings for the mic are not right, because you're pretty close, but it's really choppy, and they're using the mic on the webcam, right?
We are.
Yeah, and being that close, it should be perfect. So there's something else going on. If it's possible for you to dial in on the phone, that'd be a lot better, because it's tough. And we want to hear all the great stuff you're saying.
I'm so sorry. I'm dialing in right now.
Okay, so let's just sit tight for a minute. Hey, really, this is a great topic.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully our audio will be better now.
Yeah, that sounds very, very much better.
My apologies. I am so very sorry.
Is there anything that anybody would like repeated, or would you like us to go back to anything?
Let me just check the. Go back to chunking. Sure, absolutely. Just to quickly recap with the chunking, that's referring to breaking down. It's a strategy of breaking down information into bite-sized pieces so that the brain can more easily digest the new information. So it's just a strategy of, you know, the use of mini lectures and having an active learning strategy between those mini lectures where you're doing direct instruction, but you're going to break it up and, you know, insert some sort of something that the students will have to do in between those mini lectures. And as far as the pyramid goes, that was, just to recap very quickly, that was about moving from the passive learning, where your students may just be transcribing information, down to, as they interact further with the information, they are going to be maybe able to apply it. They're going to be able to practice it, and then, you know, further down, like as the students kind of move towards those higher levels of bloom, they're going to be able to analyze that information. They're going to be able to create something using that information, or evaluate it, synthesize it, so that, you know, it's not just they're just transcribing information directly from the direct instruction. They're going to be doing something with it. And we are actually going to have all of you do something with the information that we have talked about today a little bit. So we are going to share a learning strategies packet with you, and it's going to have a variety of strategies that may be used with small, medium, or large classes, or maybe even, you know, any size class. It really depends on you as the instructor and the subject. So for the instructions for this activity, we're going to provide you time to read the packet. It is quite long. You may not get to every section, but we will give you time to, you know, look into a few different strategies. Then we are going to have ask for your feedback. And we're going to be using a tool called Padlet. And then finally, we want to try and get some audience participation, and we want to hear directly from you. So on this next slide, I'm going to have we are going to have, you know, how you get to the packet.
So you're going to have some uninterrupted time to just read through, like Kerry said. The packet contains the 16 different learning activities that could be used. To access the packet, we're going to ask that you use the link shown on the screen, or if you want to read the packet on a different device, so that way you can keep this up on your computer, you can scan the QR code, which is on the screen there for you. The web link or the QR code will provide you access to the learning strategies packet. So either way you choose to go is fine. So we're going to set a timer for 5 minutes for you to just kind of skim through the learning strategies packet and just be prepared to discuss some strategies that you like or some possible pitfalls that may come up with some of the strategies for your classes.
And you can use your phone's camera to scan that QR code, and it'll open it on your phone or a tablet.
Yeah, the link worked for me just fine.
And I just shared the direct link from Google Drive in the chat as well.
just so that you can all pace yourselves. You have about 1 minute left.
Okay, everyone. Hopefully you have some time to familiarize yourself with some of those learning strategies in the packet. It is quite a long packet, so you know, you'll be able to take that home with you, so to speak. But we wanted to get some of your feedback on these strategies. And we have some questions on the screen for you to consider. So what do you like about a strategy? What are some possible pitfalls that you see with a strategy, and how might those be avoided? And what changes would you make for a strategy to work in your classroom? So on our screen, we have a link to a Padlet, to a website called Padlet, and it will allow you to type in your feedback on these 3 questions that we've asked. You could also scan the QR code using a phone or tablet on the camera, and it'll open up the Padlet link as well. And so we're going to give you 4 minutes, we have our little timer here, for you to provide feedback on these questions.
Feel free to like or comment on other people's comment feedback boxes as well. That'll facilitate some great discussion.
Yes, of course. The Padlet link is also shared in the chat with everyone as well.
You have about 30 seconds left to finish up your thoughts before we share out altogether.
And that's my timer going off. Please feel free to continue adding your feedback to the Padlet. I think we've gotten some great feedback so far on each of the columns. And then I did add another column in case there was any other feedback you wanted to add for the group. I will leave this Padlet available and up. And now we kind of wanted to switch gears, and we wanted to hear from participants in the meeting. Some of the most beneficial professional development experiences we both have had has been when we've been in discussion with other instructors at different institutions who teach different subjects, and it's getting that different perspective that have really helped us. So we wanted to we're hoping for people to use if people could raise the hand tool so that they could, if they wanted to share their thoughts. If anyone is brave enough.
I find it hard to believe these guys are shy. I think they're just slow typing.
Or if you wanted to, say something in the, in the chat as well. But yeah, this is we had, we had some great points in the on the Padlet as well. Someone mentioned the use of Coggle as a free concept map tool. That would be good to use. So that's great. I'm gonna add it to the packet of information. And I think when it comes to these strategies, it really depends on the size of your class as to how you're going to try and implement them if you're able to use them.
For instance, the spotlight conversation usually works with any class size, very low planning, but a possible pitfall to that would be the volume in your class. If you have, a lot of you teach, it seems like you teach classes of 40 or more, and I can imagine that would get extremely loud. So even though that would be kind of a low risk setting in terms of students being brave enough to participate and to, just participate in general, I could see it getting very loud. So that could definitely be a possible pitfall there, in which case, maybe one of the exit slips, something more quiet and that requires writing from each person might be a better fit.
And it looks like we have some instructors who teach maybe only online. And some of these, our team, we don't focus on, we have a different team at our university that focuses on online courses, but we did include some of these strategies, ways you could modify it to make it work for an online environment as well.
You had a really good point on the one-on-one being really hard with a larger class. However, in an online environment, maybe opening up a chat room where each student has their own chat room, where you assign 2 or 3 students to that chat room, and they could be chatting response. That way it's not as loud or noisy. That's just a thought that I thought of as you were talking about that.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Thank you for that contribution. That seems like a viable solution.
Does anyone else want to have any thoughts about maybe one of the strategies they've used, or something that they might want to try in their class, or something that they've tried and maybe it didn't work? Um, yeah, if you teach a class that's small enough for 4 corners, it's great. It's just kind of like a built-in brain break, it gets them up and moving, and they'll probably moan and groan because they have to get up and move, but it's good for them to get up and to change gears a little bit in that way. And the 4 corners, you also have to consider the classroom environment. If you're going to try and get the students to get up and move. But my students, they've definitely grown, when I've made them get up and move. But it's sometimes when you start doing these things, starting on day 1, they get sort of used to it, that they're going to have to do something in your class. Breaking in small groups for a given activity. Absolutely, it does encourage more participation and student engagement. Oh, interesting. So someone did the speed dating peer review.
Yeah, that's a great strategy for writing classes or for writing heavy assignments.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for your feedback. We do have a few more tidbits of information to share with you when it comes to learning strategies.
So just in case you might have missed it, we just wanted to point out some of the techniques that we embedded into today's presentation, which were active learning strategies in and of themselves. So the first one that we embedded was listing the learning objectives. Although it's not a super heavy active learning strategy, the learning objectives are important because they provide students with a clear direction of where you're going, where they're going, and a focus for their learning efforts. The second thing that we did in this presentation was we chunked our presentation, as we mentioned earlier. So we used a little mini lecture in the beginning, a small activity, and then followed that up with a guided discussion. We use timers for the activities. Timers are just a great classroom management tool, time management tool. They kind of provide that sense of urgency for students. I've found in my own teaching that when I don't use a timer for something and I say, okay, work with your group, talk with the person next to you about this thing, sometimes they'll lollygag around or they'll beat around the bush, or sometimes one person will just dominate the conversation, losing track of time, and the other person might not have a chance to pipe up. So timers are great for providing that sense of urgency and helping students manage their time in discussions. I just use the timer on my cell phone for that, or I will embed one like in this presentation right from YouTube. The fourth thing that we did was we provided an overview of the activity and the instructions before the activity started. It's kind of hard in this type of a model because people could click ahead of us, but in a face-to-face course, we always try to provide instructions and then pass out the assignment, because once that piece of paper is in their hands, you've lost them. And the last thing was during the activity, we had a task that participants had to complete to ensure accountability and engagement with the material, so that you had to go beyond just reading and you actually had to do something with the content that will help you in the long run with your planning.
And you know, we've done presentations like this, but never virtual. So it was interesting for us to sort of have to think outside of the box and say, okay, how are we going to get everyone's feedback? You know, we're not having people talk in their groups or, you know, complete something in their groups. So that's when Padlet was helpful in this case. So I did want to kind of circle back, and I think I mentioned a little bit about, you know, structuring the learning activities and what you might do. But hopefully you have a sense of maybe some activities that you want to try with your classes. And we wanted to sort of make sure we hit upon in today's session how to go about structuring those activities, things to consider. We did include in our packet some pretty low planning level activities. For example, like the 3-2-1 exit slip is a pretty low level planning activity. But you know, something to consider is going to be your environmental factors, your classroom setup, your class size. Here at Johnson & Wales, we tend to have smaller classes. We don't have large lecture halls, so the most you're probably going to see in a classroom of ours is 42. However, even with that small class size of 42, you know, are you going to be able to get the students to move around? Are you going to be able to have them move their desks together or move their chairs together if you're going to do the speed dating activity? Or are you going to be able to get them to move to the four corners of the classroom if you were to choose that activity? Something also to consider is the students' prior knowledge. You know, how are you activating that? How are you, you know, are the students familiar with, you know, the activity you're trying to do? If not, you want to definitely spend more time explaining that activity to make sure that, you know, they know what to expect, they know why you're doing it. And also something to consider is are your instructional goals. So does the activity fit with the goals that, you know, you're trying to accomplish in your class? You know, having students do something just to have them get up and do it, there might be some resistance level, but if you're directly relating it to what their learning goals are, the objectives of the day, you know, then it's going to fit much better.
Or even just thinking about the use of, I'm thinking, you said the word meaningful and it triggered it for me. Using technology in a meaningful way. So sometimes I'll work with a lot of faculty who are looking to incorporate technology for something, and I make the suggestion of, well, you could have students come up to the board and post a sticky note, or you could have them go to one side of the room showing if they agree or disagree, and it gets them up and moving and it does the same job. And then they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think of it that way. You know, that might be the better approach. So sometimes while technology can definitely enhance the quality of instruction and engagement, it's great to ask yourself, is it necessary? Is it the best fit? And is there another way that I can go about this that might engage the students even more?
Which may not be a question if you're teaching purely in the online environment.
Right.
But like we had said, we deal mostly with faculty who, you know, are teaching hybrid or face-to-face classes. And lastly, I did want to point out that, you know, when you are considering, you know, using, you know, learning strategies in your class, you know, be sure to anticipate that, or to be aware of that level of planning that goes into it and any sort of risk factors. So I know that I've, you know, have tried to do a strategy with my class, and I've definitely had to say, okay, everyone stop. This is not working. And, you know, to be okay with that if you do try and something, you know, sort of on the large or bigger planning side. You know, for example, the Socratic seminar, you know, that is, I would say, is a heavy planning strategy to try and use with your classes. You know, so start out small. You know, if you're not too comfortable with using strategies, start out small. Start off with, you know, strategies that maybe won't take as much planning.
So we just mentioned to start small with those low risk, with those low risk activities, and a lot of you mentioned that in the Padlet responses we asked for as well. For some of those students that are more shy, a lot of these strategies in this packet do work for students that are more shy. The Socratic seminar might not be the best choice for those types of students right away. I think that's something you'd have to build up to. But jumping into the second one, a great tip is to explain why you're doing what you're doing and talk to the students about their learning. This will help to build a supportive classroom environment as well as make the students aware of what they're learning so that they can become independent learners. And another practical tip would be to tie it all to the learning goals and objectives, as we mentioned previously. We want to make sure that we're choosing meaningful and appropriately challenging activities that are clearly tied to the learning goals or assessments. It's always helpful to just ask yourself, how will this activity help my students achieve their learning goal?
So we do have some additional resources. These are, you know, links to some other institutions. Their active learning, they have additional active learning strategies. I can share these links up in the Google Doc as well.
Just a side note, that third one, there's no link for it, but if you plug that into a Google search, that one is fantastic. And it has so many great techniques and strategies for all different types of classes. It's really amazing.
So we wanted to make sure we shared our contact information. And I also have, these are all of our references that, you know, for the information that we used today. I wanted to make sure that I had enough time for any questions that people had as well. So Dr. Vance had shared once she explains the learning goals before they start a class activity, students are eager to get started. Oh, I like that idea. The use of a follow-up and follow-through at the completion of the activity by asking the students to share lessons learned. I love that.
Another version of that, it's similar to that. I've seen it in classrooms called what, so what, and now what. So your what is the learning objective, your so what is why they should care, and the now what is how this learning objective will apply to their lives, to their careers, to the world outside. And that's kind of similar to that follow-up and follow-through, a little spin-off, and I've seen both work really well.
And yes, I'm happy to share these slides from the presentation as well. Are there any questions people have? Any strategies people wanted to share that they've used that have been successful? Any thoughts that people have on you know, using learning activities with your classes? I do have the chat up in case anyone wanted to type in a question.
Oh,
Thank you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? No. That don't want to participate?
Yeah, I mentioned that with the exit slips for the students that are shy or the,
So I was just looking at the Padlet, and someone mentioned how, you know, with every activity, there's always going to be maybe some students who are shy and, you know, don't want to participate. And that's when I think it's creating that, you know, a way you might be able to get around that is at the beginning of your class, sort of creating that culture that, you know, you're going to be sharing, you're going to be engaging with each other. And then I know Jillian just mentioned, you know, the 3-to-1 exit slip. That's a very, you know, if students have high anxiety levels, that is a very good strategy to use for, yes, you already said it, but it's a good strategy to use for maybe students who have high anxiety and, you know, they're sort of afraid to share in front of the whole class. I wanted to see if there's any other. Thank you. Well, we hope you enjoyed, you know, discussing learning strategies. Hopefully, we have provided you with one of the 16 that we shared would work for one of your subjects that you're teaching. It sounds like people, you know, a lot of people have used some of these, and you know, there's always, you know, maybe going to be a pitfall when it comes to trying these out for the first time with your classes. But, you know, as you continue using them with your classes, they get used to it. There's no other questions. Bob, should I turn it back to you?
I think we're at closure. I'm glad we solved the audio, because we would have missed a lot of good stuff. So
I'm
I
so sorry
appreciate
for
it.
that.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Good resources to take with us as well. So Carrie and Jillian, thank you so much. And I hope to see other folks in the next session at the top of the hour.